In this episode, Golden and I discuss Ms. Marvel, full speed ahead.
The Omega Beam. Full power. The Omega Beam.
Welcome to the Omega Beam number 181. I'm your host, Oren Merton. The latest Marvel Studios TV series streaming in its entirety on Disney Plus is Ms. Marvel, which means it's time for us to dig into it. We start spoiler-free and then get spoilerific, so with that in mind, let's get to it. I am here with Golden to talk about Ms. Marvel. I did not know anything about Ms. Marvel.
I don't think either one of us really knew very much at all.
I knew she existed because I was a huge Captain Marvel reader when Kelly Sue DeConnick sort of resurrected Captain Marvel after X number of years of that character not really existing. And I knew that after her, they came up with Ms. Marvel. I knew she was a Muslim superhero, a teenager. I think when we were at the D23 convention, we saw an episode of a teen Marvel superhero show, and she was one of them. But we didn't, that was it. I mean, she was just a character there that we didn't know about, and we saw do stuff with other teen superheroes. But we didn't know anything about her. We didn't know her story. And so this was all new to us. How do you think after 6 episodes? How do you think it was?
I'm surprised that they were able to do as much as they did in 6 episodes.
It moved fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a very surprisingly excellent show, and I don't say that because I didn't expect it to be good, because we watched it, because we know that all the MCU Disney Plus shows have all been good. There hasn't been a loser in the bunch, but I didn't expect it to be as wonderful as it was. They captured the kind of joy and awkwardness of youth in a really engaging way. They kind of use, for those of us who've seen Scott Pilgrim, we remember the kind of random video game elements that they would throw all over the screen because he was a gamer. And here it was social media all over because that is the era in which we live. And they did it in such a wonderful, engaging, popping way that it was absolutely fantastic. And I also have to say, as someone who knows absolutely nothing about Pakistani Muslim culture, it was absolutely fantastic to dive into a loving family and their traditions and their way of life and the way they approach living in America. And I thought it was something I was totally unfamiliar with, and I thought it was handled incredibly well. As someone who didn't know anything other than watching the movie Gandhi when I was a kid about the partition and how horrible it was, the partition between India and Pakistan, I would say this opened my eyes in the same way that watching Watchmen on HBO opened my eyes about the violence in Tulsa, Oklahoma that we knew nothing about. I got a lot out of this, not to mention the fact that the actress who plays Kamala Khan was fantastic. The actors who played her parents, her brother, I thought they were all just...
The cast is very good.
Yeah.
And I know that there was some controversy over the fact that the people playing certain roles weren't exactly the right ethnicity or from the right... So, but we didn't know that without reading it.
Right. I mean, I did know because I've seen one actress on Critical Role. I knew that she was a Hindu Indian and not a Pakistani Muslim, but I totally understand the drive for representation in hiring actors and actresses. But from my perspective, everyone was a person of color. Everyone was from South Asia. So I think they did their due diligence. And if someone else does not feel that way, I understand. So shall we go spoilers?
Sure.
3, 2, 1, spoilers. So I know that they changed her powers, that in the comic, she's an Inhuman, and she's just stretchy. So she stretches her body out, she can do the punchy with the big punchy hand, and that's what she can do. I like the fact that they gave her hard light powers in this. I think it links her more to Captain Marvel and to Photon, who are going to be the other two main protagonists in the Marvels, in which she is in. I think that given the Marvel Universe as it is, it makes sense. Plus, as we find out in the very end, in a scene that you had to tell me to go back and listen to the music.
As soon as he said mutation, they just played just a little bit of the X-Men theme, and I was like, oh, that's so cool.
So they...
And somehow... You missed it, and you're a music person.
Yeah.
David missed it.
Yeah. Because it was one of those, just, it was really subtle, it was
or
really quick.
Or at least he didn't remember.
Yeah, he didn't remember. I was focusing on other things, and it just blew right past me. But yeah, in this, making her a mutant kind of opens it up now to bring in the X-Men. That she's an X-woman, even though we haven't been formally introduced to the X-Men in the MCU just yet. But I loved that part of it. And an interesting tidbit of history is that at the time Ms. Marvel was created, Fox owned the rights to the word mutants and X-Men. And obviously not the word in the English language, I mean in Marvel's, fantasy. And so Marvel Comics had a rule that you could not use mutation because they didn't want to give any new IP over to Fox. So they had to create them as Inhumans. So they created Ms. Marvel as an Inhuman, but I think it was clear from the very beginning they would have made her a mutant if they could have. So now they own Fox, now they own the X-Men, so now they could make her what she always would have been, even though it's a change from the comics. So I thought that was just a cool little thing, but I really dug the way they changed her. We already talked about how the actors are all fantastic. They just really drag you in. And I love how in some ways they play against expectation, against hype. So one of the characters we're introduced to in the first episode is the hot social media babe who we expect to be the bitchy, popular girl, and she is the popular girl, but it turns out she's a lot deeper than people gave her credit for. And she ultimately knew all along.
Is that Zoe?
Yeah, she knew all along who Kamala Khan was. But
yeah, she was able to figure it out.
But she wasn't going to tell anybody because it was Kamala's secret to tell. So even if Kamala wasn't, part of the cool kids or whatever, that didn't mean she was going to disrespect her. And I thought that it was great that one of her Muslim friends hates superheroes.
So she didn't feel comfortable telling her.
Right, so she didn't feel comfortable telling her. Yet when she finally finds out, she's like, but I would always love you, no matter what. And I thought that was just really sweet. I thought it was really cool that they made Bruno, who in the MCU we can talk about, that he is very much his own person, and he makes his own choices. I mean, he wants to be close to Kamala, even though they're not together. He has an opportunity to go to California, to leave Jersey and go to California, and you know what? He takes it.
He wasn't sure about taking it
He wasn't
at first.
sure. He wasn't sure, but he kind of realized, you know what? He has to improve himself. That he has to be the best himself he can be.
He has to live for himself before
Yes.
he lives for someone else.
Exactly. And I thought it was a wonderful way to give kind of a tropey character, his own personality and arc. And it's not he gets the girl or he forgets about the girl. He doesn't. He's still Kamala's best friend. He just realizes he has to live for himself. And I thought that was really, this is just a really well thought out series, really well written. If there's anything that I didn't need, I would say two things. And they didn't take me out of the series, and they didn't mean I didn't like it. But the clandestines, who are the villains, I thought the main villains kind of turn, like right before her very end. It was a little abrupt. It was like, I've been trying to do this for, decades and decades and decades. And when Kamala says, but it's wrong, she's like, oh yeah, okay. It's like, she probably would have just, continued on her path. But, okay. It's that kind of look, this is, of all the MCU series, they all have a different thing. This was a coming-of-age teen story. And it's not going to be as heavy as WandaVision, which is about grief. You know, an adult story about grief. It's going to be a little bit, lighter. And okay, that's fine. And the other is, I know a lot of people loved it. I could have done without Captain Marvel showing up at the very end.
Well, there's something else going on there.
Right.
So,
Right. I mean, it ties into the movie.
yeah,
The Marvels.
I don't think that waiting until the Marvels is coming out and having the Marvels start with that would have been the way to do it. I think that the way that they did it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun, but I appreciate MCU tie-ins and all the rest, but this was kind of her story. So I understand why they did it as the after credit scene. So you could watch the entire story without having to watch that part of it. Mm-hmm. So I get that. I mean, this isn't part of Kamala's story for this series. It's a part of it's like the beginning, like you said. It's like the beginning of a forthcoming story. But
well, no, this is her story.
Right, it's her story, but it's the part that they're going to cover in the movie. So I didn't need that. And like I said, none of this takes me out of it. None of this took me out of it. I smiled when she showed up, because I love Brie Larson as
And when
Captain
her
Marvel.
parents find out that she is this person, it's not, okay, we're locking the door and keeping you in.
Right.
It's, okay, well, but I just want you to be careful.
Right. Yeah.
And
It's that level of support and love that is
that
beautiful.
one battle where, she's trying to help Kamran. Mm-hmm. And he just isn't sure what he's supposed to do, where he's supposed to go, who he's supposed to be at this point. And the, I want to say bad guys here.
Damage control.
Are moving in. The people themselves decide to stand up.
Right.
And
she's their superhero.
Yeah, and I think that was really just very poignant.
Yeah, it was very poignant. And in that same scene, another very poignant part to me, not just because it summed up my own, growing up and youth, but because I think it applies to probably the vast majority of humans in the world, is she's created this kind of secure bubble around them. And he is just so upset. I mean, she's trying to talk him down, and he is just so upset. And he says, they will never accept us as normal. And she says, there is no normal. It's just what we do with what we have. And I think that is going to resonate with every single person, every single young person who watches this show.
And how you say that she is their superhero. She is part of them. They are part of her.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just really something that we don't always see.
Yeah.
Okay, we saw it way long ago in the Tobey Maguire, the runaway train.
Right,
and he ends up,
right.
and the people supporting him and assuring him that they're never going to tell his secret.
Yeah.
But here, it's just, I think, a little bit different, because it is a community. It is a people. It is a group. And they stand strong together. And in doing so, they themselves are the superhero.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's like everyone has their moment to shine. And I think at the very, very end, there's this social media montage where people are talking about their own experience, they're talking about what happened, they're excited about, Kamala and everything. And it does show that everyone gets to participate. It was everybody's shining moment, not just her shining moment. And it's handled so brilliantly and so poignantly and so movingly. I mean, this is for a teen-aimed show, this is really moving for anyone, I think. And I'm glad that they did this as a show. It was originally one of those shows where we were like, oh, okay, Ms. Marvel, I guess they're going for a different audience. Okay, cool, we'll watch it, whatever. But no, it was really good. And like I said, as someone who didn't know anything about the partition, other than what they showed me in Ben Kingsley's movie Gandhi, they take it on in this movie. This is, like I said, this is a teen movie. They're not going to be showing you gore and horror. It's not that kind of show. But they still make it poignant.
And they open and close each episode just in a very original way.
Yeah, absolutely. And all, with all the Marvel shows, I mean, all the polish is there. I mean, they've, certainly all the polish is there. So if you stayed away from this show because you didn't know who Ms. Marvel was, and you didn't necessarily care, it's actually a show you're going to get a lot out of. As aimed at a lighter audience as this show is, you're going to get more out of it than you think. And it's worth watching.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable.
Yep. Well, thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/181. If you like this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Your reviews help people who like this stuff find our podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.
The Omega Beam. The Omega Beam. Full stop.